Hey, now, yo, welcome into the Full Coverage Football Show. My name is Jeremy. To my left or right, depending on which way you're looking on a computer,
Who
that
knows?
is Mr. Drew, the star
That's
of the
me.
show. Dude, we got a fun night to go. We got NFL next week. We're finally back. Everyone, this is a Full Coverage Football Show. Check out our sponsors scrolling across the bottom. Let's welcome you all in. This is the live stream on Facebook, fb.me/FCFS pod. Remember, you can check this page anytime, see all of our episodes, all 40 episodes. That's right. This is the 40th episode of the Full Coverage Football Show.
Hard to
40
believe.
episodes in. All those episodes are available on the Facebook page. And hey, if you don't want to see our beautiful faces, check out the audio version. We're on Anchor, we're on Spotify, iHeart, you name it. We are all over the place. We're taking over the world. And before we take over the world, we need you to check out our new merchandise at bonfire.com/store/FCFS-tees. Check out some of the t-shirts there. And let's get going. Drew, how you doing tonight, brother?
Well, my friend, what's going on? We are 1 week away. We're probably into the end of the first quarter. I don't know what time the game starts next week, but we're there, man.
We're about end of the first quarter, probably 2 minutes left. I think it's probably an 8:25 kickoff or so. With all the commercials, dude, it's just going to be football will be back.
Can't believe it.
Cannot wait. And it's finally starting to feel like football's coming back because now you got all these players getting released. We're building up to the season. Mohamed Sanu released, which shows that was a terrible trade for the Patriots. Leonard Fournette was released, signed with Tampa Bay. I mean, you had Clinton Dix released today. Ronnie Harrison was traded to the Browns today. They're talking Jadeveon Clowney will sign to whoever gives him the most money. He's like the eBay player, just the highest bidder gets him. And it includes shipping. But, I mean, there's a lot going on, and it can only mean one thing, and that's football is almost back, baby. I mean, next week at this time, we got Deshaun versus Pat. Bill O'Brien against Andy Reid. Houston versus KC, the Texans and the Chiefs. That's right, it's back. And just so you know, with football coming back, that means this show can only end with one thing, and that will be Ward's Wagers. But before we get to that, before we get to any of the fun and Drew starts to take over and win you guys some money, because we will say what his record was. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned to the whole show, and you'll find out just how damn good he was last year. Before we do any of that, we need to get this show rolling, and we're going to get into our NFC South preview. But before we talk NFC South, let's talk our top 5 wide receivers in the NFC, which we have done with every one of our division previews. We've broken down the players. Drew, I'll let you start this list. Who are your top 5 wide receivers in the NFC by the end of 2020?
Number 5, I'm putting Mike Evans. I think I mean Mike Evans has been dominant. Anybody with Jameis Winston. I think Tom Brady will step in and be just fine. Mike Evans at number 5. At number 4, I have Devontae Adams. As much as I dislike the Packers, the dude's just a serious threat. The top 3, I think, are kind of toss-ups. I think Michael Thomas, in my opinion, would go in at 3. I just don't believe. I mean, yes, Michael Thomas is a very volume wide receiver, lots of catches. I do believe he has a very productive year. At 2, I would put Nuke Hopkins. Different quarterback. I worry somewhat, and I think that Kyle Murray is going to have a nice year, but I do worry somewhat it's going to be with kind of a limited off season with the chemistry there with Kyler Murray, and then at number 1, Julio Jones, his best wide receiver in football. I don't have anything else to say about it. I mean, you can argue it if you want, but
I love Julio.
He's just dominant. I mean, that's simple to me.
Except he is my number 3 on my list. Yeah. Number 5, Mike Evans. Number 4, Devontae Adams. I'm listening to your list. I'm like, we're going to have a very similar list. And we do. It's the same 5 guys. At number 3, I have Julio Jones. I love Julio Jones. He's excellent. He is the human avatar. He's a stud. At number 2, though, I have DeAndre Hopkins. Now, Nuke Hopkins has been, in my opinion, the best wide receiver in the league for much of his career, playing with guys who just can't throw the football. And then he finally got Deshaun Watson, and then they deal for the corpse of David Johnson. And Kyler Murray, we'll talk more about Kyler Murray when we do our NFC West preview, which comes up later in the show. But we'll see how that works out. And my number 1 is Michael Thomas. I think Michael Thomas, we look at him as a volume receiver, and you're absolutely right. He gets the ball a ton. there in New Orleans. But I think he can do almost anything on the field. Maybe he's not a vertical threat as much as Julio, but I think hands-wise, this guy has the best hands in the league. I'm going to go with Michael Thomas at 1. Either way, those top 3 guys, I think, might be the 3 best receivers in the NFL at this point. And this NFC was hard to do because there's 6 through 9. I had Kenny Golladay, Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, and Adam Thielen. And Thielen's another guy who's really a volume guy. There's a lot of really good wide receivers in the NFC.
Well, it's interesting to see what Thielen's volume is going to be without Diggs opposite him. Justin Jefferson is clearly going to have to develop into the role. He's not going to just be a plug-and-play right away. We'll see with that. I mean, but again, not to get off base, but when you have Thielen opposite Diggs, it's different because Stephon Diggs has the ability to, I mean, he's a fantastic route runner, as was Thielen. So it's going to be different for him. He's going to see more attention. And I'm interested to see what that offense does, but that was last week.
I mean, that offense is going to be fun. You're absolutely right. That offense is going to be fun. We did talk about it last week, but this week, we are talking NFC South, and we will start with the team that finished in the basement of the division. Probably one of my favorite teams. They got a lot of really fun players, and that is the Carolina Panthers. 5-11 last year. They lost Cam Newton. They lost Ron Rivera. They lost Greg Olsen, and they lost the best linebacker of the past decade in Luke Kuechly. That's a lot of really talented guys and a lot of leaders to lose in one offseason. But you replace him with Matt Rule, who got a ton of money from Carolina's owner, David Tepper, to step in there and basically right the ship, change the culture, make it something different, and it's more of a college atmosphere now with the younger guys. So not only did you bring him in, you brought in Teddy Bridgewater, brought in a lot of guys in the draft on defense, all defense in their draft, and you brought in a guy who doesn't seem to fit in Robbie Anderson, who I'm not sure how I feel about that, but Teddy Bridgewater, if they get play action going, he was graded 92.9 while throwing with play action, but then a 60.1 with no play action. This is a guy who we haven't seen as a full-time starter in almost 5 years, I think, at this point. He did step in a little bit last year, but that's New Orleans. That offense is basically anyone can step in and play and do okay. What is he going to be this year for the Carolina Panthers, you think?
Listen, I like Teddy Bridgewater. I like what they did in the draft, getting Derek Brown. You know I liked Gross Matos heading into the draft.
Yeeter.
Yeah, see, I mean, listen, I like what they're doing. I worry that what that offense is being just super one-dimensional. Listen, Teddy, it's been a while since we've seen Teddy Bridgewater in a full role. I mean, we've seen Taysom Hill, thrive in the offense down there in New Orleans at times, of course. But listen, it's in my opinion, Carolina, they're heading in the right direction. I'm not sold on what they can do offensively. And you bring up Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly was the best linebacker in the entire league, the best middle linebacker in the entire league, in my opinion, and he just walks away from the game. So here we are. I mean, that is a signal caller. That's your guy. That is a huge blow. I have this team, in my opinion, at 6-10.
Their over-under is 5.5, so you will take the over. You got them at 6-10. I'm looking at this team. Yeah, Teddy's dink and dunk, but they've got perfect run after catch guys, and CMC, who's basically got it right now in football. 100 catches, 1,000 yards passing, or 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 yards rushing. The kid can do everything. He doesn't drop the football. He doesn't turn it over. He's a stud. 100%, probably the best all-around player maybe in the game. Then you got DJ Moore. You got Curtis Samuel, really good guys after the catch. Then you got that one tool player in Robbie Anderson, who's a streak player, who loves to run vertical. He loves to run the streak. I don't see him fitting in this offense. There's a lot of people who are higher on him than I am. I'm just not seeing it. But for this offense to be really good, you've got to keep Teddy upright. And that O-line is average. There's a lot of questions on the interior. I do not trust the interior part of that line. And 6 wins, that's possible. I could see that. I'm actually going to take the under. I got 4 wins for this team this year. And that's because this defense, it's young. It's hungry. It's young. I mean, they got a young secondary. You got Derek Brown. You got Yetur Gross-Matos. You got Jeremy Chin in the secondary. they're young. They need to develop. But that offensive line, that's going to be the biggest key to this team. If they can keep Teddy upright and he can get those dink and dunks and CMC's able to run and open up that play action, they can win 6 games. I can totally see that. But for now, I'm going to take the under at 4 wins.
And see, that's the thing that you brought up a great point, because to me, the things that you say, yes, Teddy can do, but the problem is when you get in 3rd and long, what is that offense going to be able to do? Because for me, I'm not sold on Teddy Bridgewater in a 3rd and 12 when Christian McCaffrey goes two runs for -2 yards. Because then you get into things where all of a sudden you getting guys into space is a little harder to pick up 12 than it is 3.
I think you're going to see a lot of screen passes and a lot of tackles behind the line for run CMC, because that interior line, man, I just don't trust it. But let's move on to a very interesting team in this division, a team who has gone from to what the NFL's version of a dream team is. And we all know how dream teams in the NFL work out. They just don't.
Eagles.
The Bucks. Browns last year. Everyone was talking about the dream team Browns because they got Odell, but that was trash, obviously. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 7-9 last year. They lost Jameis Winston. That's their biggest loss. But they added Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette, Rob Gronkowski. I mean, they've added some solid guys. Brady's not the dominant guy that we all know and love and grew up with, and for most of our lives was just the best quarterback on the planet, or at least near the top. But there's no need for him to carry this team offensively anymore. There's so many weapons. With the addition of Fournette, they got a guy who can pound in between the tackles. You've got 3 tight ends who can be pretty good, with Gronk, who may come back. He's not going to be the dominant Gronk, the Gronk spike we all came used to in New England, but he's still a solid player. He'll be okay. You got O.J. Howard if they can find him. And then Cam Brate, who will have 1 catch, 1 touchdown for 1 yard almost every week. It feels like that's what he does in fantasy.
Machine.
He's just a machine in the red zone. I mean, then you got Ronald Jones, who stepped up last year. That Ronald Jones and Fournette backfield, they're going to be okay running the ball, but neither one of those guys is a great receiver out of the backfield. So that's where a guy like Keyshawn Vaughn, who they took in the draft, I want to say the 3rd round, he's going to come in handy as the James White type for this team. And I talked about the wide receivers, Godwin and Evans. I mean, just stars. But for what they can do offensively, led by Bruce Arians, it's really what you're going to see out of this defense that leads to this team being able to meet their over-under, which is 9.5. And you're going to get a lot out of your D-line. You got Vita Vea, you got Ndamukong Suh, you got Shaq Barrett, you got JPP.
Ndamukong Suh, whatever.
I mean,
Ndamukong Suh, all he cares about is a paycheck. The dude. I don't want to get into an Ndamukong Suh rant, but good riddance, man. That guy, whatever. Ndamukong, yeah, he's a guy. He's a guy.
He's a guy in this point. That's all he needs to be, though, for this team, because interior. In the second level, you've got Levante David, who's one of the top linebackers in the league, but they need Devin White, who they drafted last year, to step up and really develop. And then in their secondary, it's all young, led by Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean, who really stepped up at the end of last year. But what are you going to get out of these guys? How good is this defense? Because this defense needs to be good enough to not make Tom Brady carry the team. What are you expecting out of the Bucs this year?
Well, I feel like Devin White, to your point, will make the next step, because I think he's a ridiculous talent, and I think he was the best linebacker in that draft, and clearly the Bucs did as well. Yeah, a lot of talent. I wouldn't be huge as a fantasy perspective running on Leonard Fournette. No. I think Ronald Jones did nice things. O.J. Howard, nobody knows where the hell O.J. Howard's been for the last 2 years. He could be out in a boat in the middle of the ocean. Where the hell has he been?
Search party for O.J. Howard.
You like to think that O.J. Howard is seen because you like to think that they're going to utilize the tight ends, because you know Bruce Arians is going to dial up the kind of offense that they need, because Bruce Arians is a hell of a coach. Yeah, defensively in the secondary is your main concern. As much as I hate Ndamukong Suh, I mean those guys will plug the middle. They got great. I mean, they're fantastic on the edge, as you saw last year. Look at their sack numbers. I like that. I like this team. I don't love this team. Yeah, they're the super team, whatever that the Browns were. Difference is they have Tom freaking Brady at quarterback, not Baker Mayfield. I have them at 10-6. That's what I'm going with.
10-6. So you are taking the over. I also am taking the over, but I have them at 11 wins. I think Tom Brady can do just enough to get the ball in the hands of the playmakers and be upright because his offensive line, while not being great, it's still pretty good. Donovan Smith is a solid left tackle. I like the addition of Tristan Wirfs. Ali Marpet is a guy who just gets overlooked, but he goes there, he does his job. Ryan Jensen at center, decent player. They got a lot of really good players. And Fournette, fantasy-wise, I think the first few weeks, probably goal line is where you're really going to want fantasy stuff from him. And then it'll probably be between the 20s where you'll get fantasy points with him. But he's
well,
not.
We know he only plays 15 games a year. I mean, we don't. I mean, right? I mean,
Yeah.
or not 15 games. I mean, he plays 13, 12 and 13 games a year.
And he will. And I think he's gonna be a guy who down the stretch they're really going to use. So he'll probably help you in the middle of your season and maybe in the playoffs for your fantasy wise. But I mean, right off the bat, he's probably not going to be great. And now moving on to the team that finished second in the division at 7-9, a tie basically. The Atlanta Falcons. They added Dante Fowler, Hayden Hurst, and Todd Gurley. They lost Desmond Trufant, Devontae Freeman, Vic Beasley, Austin Hooper. I mean, coming back on offense, it's basically the same guys that you're really going to look for as stars. Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, led by Matty Ice, Matt Ryan. Ridley needs to keep improving. Julio will be Julio. What do you get out of Hayden Hurst? And can the offensive line block? That offensive line was terrible last year.
Well, there's questionable offensive lines across this entire division. There really is, if you think about it. I mean, besides the Saints, I guess the Saints are, the best one you have. But yeah. I
mean, offensive line, if they can block, there's weapons where this team can be solid. They're over under 7.5, and they're going to need that offensive line to really step up if they want to reach that. I mean, Dan Quinn at this point last year, or midway through the season last year, we were ready to fire the guy even though he had done a solid job coaching. We just thought they'd given up on him. Then down the stretch, he starts winning games. Are they going to play for him to start the year, or is this going to be just you should have probably got rid of the guy? That is yet to see. And then when you look at the defense, Grady Jarrett up front, stud, monster. But he needs help. I mean, you brought in Marlon Davidson. What's he going to do as a rookie? You brought Charles Harris, who's been a bust for the most part. At linebacker, you got Deion Jones and who? Corner, you're bringing in A.J. Terrell as a rookie who's going to start right away. And then, I mean, Keanu Neal, is he going to be the player we all thought he was going to be? There's a lot of questions on this team. You got Matt Ryan, you've got Julio Jones, and you hope you still have Calvin Ridley improving. Then it's all question marks. What are you expecting out of this team? Do you think they get to 7.5 wins?
No, I don't. So the thing is with me is you're right. That defense has a lot of question marks on top of the fact that the guys they're trying to plug into these holes are rookies in significant roles. You say A.J. Terrell, that guy's going to have to play corner basically right out of the gates with basically no offseason. The offense is a lot of the same. Yeah, you have Todd Gurley, and I think, yes, it's not great in the running game. I think the offense is going to be fine. However, I think that team's going to give up a lot of points, and they're going to have to be in shootout every week. And I just think, can we rely on Todd Gurley to run the football for 4 quarters? No, you can rely on him in spurts, and you just have to be able to that offense is going to have to throw the ball 30 to 35 times a game if they get behind. And it's just going to put a lot of stress on the defense, who you're right. Grady Jarrett's a fantastic player, one of the best in the league. And but that defensive line, if they don't get, I mean, that defense is going to get picked apart. I have them at 7-9, so I'm going under the 7.5 or the 7.5. I'll go with 7.
Dude, you hit it right on the head there. It's going to be shootouts, and you don't know what you're going to expect from Todd Gurley. That's why everyone's fantasy darling for a couple weeks, who was a bust fantasy-wise, and Brian Hill, who will be the main backup, is a guy you really want to look at as if you're getting stuff out of Brian Hill when he's spelling Todd Gurley, they might be able to battle in some of those shootouts. But for the most part, I'm not expecting that. They're an average team to me. They're pretty good top of the roster, but the depth just isn't there. So I'm at 8-8, so I'm going to take the over actually, but I can see them anywhere between 6 wins and 9 wins.
Agreed.
And now we move on to the cream of the crop, the top team in this division, 13-3 last year, and that is the New Orleans Saints. They added Emmanuel Sanders. They added Ty Montgomery. They had Jameis. They lost Von Bell, Larry Warford, Eli Apple. I mean, the offense is loaded. Ty Montgomery added to Latavius Murray, added to Alvin Kamara. That's a fun trio in the backfield. You got Drew Brees, who is the ageless wonder at 136 years old and still going out there and doing okay. I mean, at wide receiver, you got Mike Thomas. You got Emmanuel Sanders, who's going to get 6 balls a game, probably for 60 to 70 yards. And then Traquan Smith is a quiet but decent number 3. At tight end, tight end is that where you use Taysom Hill from time to time. Jared Cook is pretty decent. Josh Hill's been average when he's been on the field. The offensive line, we already talked about it, best in the division. They're very good up front. And that defense, led by Davenport and Jordan up front, with the addition of Sheldon Rankins coming back after being hurt, that front line is going to be solid. The back end, they're okay. The linebacker play, Demario Davis, has been really good for them. You're going to get a lot out of this team. Are they a Super Bowl team? Do they win the division this year? What do you think?
Yeah, I think they do win the division. This is the best roster I could argue it's the best roster in the entire league. I think they're going to figure whatever is going on with Kamara right now out. I think he's a super threat. The Emmanuel Sanders addition's fantastic. I mean, last year they were kind of outside of Michael Thomas. I mean, their receivers, although productive, because of the fact that you have Drew Brees, weren't as great as you would think. They have just the things they can do offensively, which is the backfield you just presented. On top of the Taysom Hill random shenanigans, it's a damn good football team. It's one of my favorite football teams in the entire league, and they have been for the last few years. I think they win the division. I will put them at 11-5, winning this division. And this division is a good division. This division is a very interesting division. Mm-hmm. But I think some of these teams beat up on each other in this division outside of Carolina. I will put them at 11-5.
Yeah, Carolina, I had them at 4 wins, and it's mainly because of this division. It's a tough division. I also have the Saints at 11-5. I have them and Tampa Bay both at 11-5, and I think New Orleans wins the division. But this is a really good division. It's going to be interesting because Tampa is that team that you just – if they put it all together, they can be really good. And then Atlanta, top of that roster, solid. Can they push teams? Can they win some of these shootouts? That's going to be really interesting to see. NFC South, definitely a fun division. That is our NFC South preview here on the Full Coverage Football Show. We're going to switch gears here for a second, right before we move on to our NFC West preview, which this is a different show for us in the past few weeks because it's just the two of us again. It feels weird. It's been a while since we've done that.
It's been.
So last week we had Chris Robin at Detroit Beastie on talking fantasy football. You want to go check out that show. Check out the Facebook page at fb.me/FCFSpod. Dude just killed it fantasy football-wise. Named Chris Robin. He was the Batman of fantasy sports because he absolutely killed that segment. Any question we had, he had a quick answer for. Absolutely killed it. Watch that back. And the week before, we had on Daniel Kelly, who talked about his book, Whatever It Takes. Go back and check out that episode. That is a great story of what can happen if you just work your ass off and force your way in to a spot. That sounded a little more wrong than I wanted to, but he forced his way into the league. Anyway, we're going into off-season awards, and we're going to get this train back on the tracks here. Who's your MVP this year, you think?
Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes. Yep. I mean, listen, I wanted to give you some flashy answer, but I don't know. What makes you think that offense is going to miss a beat?
It's not. It's just not. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, yeah. I wanted to go Patrick Mahomes, but I'm like, if we're really being logical here, Patrick Mahomes, just the easiest thing. I mean, kid's the best quarterback on the planet, but I went with Carson Wentz. Mainly because I think if he stays healthy and he can lead that team into the playoffs, and that's a huge if, I think he wins that MVP. And that 2 years ago, he was ready to win that MVP before he tore that ACL, or 3 years ago, whatever it is now. So I'm going to go with him. Now, we'll switch. AFC Rookie of the Year on offense. Who you got?
AFC Rookie of the Year on offense, I'm going to go with Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow. I like it.
Listen, I think the kid's got some. I think the kid's got some game. I think he's got weapons. Hopefully, AJ Green stays healthy. I think Joe Mixon's going to give him the ability to work a little play action.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to ask him to throw a gajillion times a game. You have to like Tyler Boyd with what he's become. Listen, you got T. Higgins. We'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens with him. The kid's young. He's been banged up, hamstring. He kind of seems like somebody that might be banged up a little bit. Kind of was in college as well at Clemson. Mm-hmm. We'll see. I mean, I think that he's kind of the easy guy to pick, and I think he's the guy that's going to win it. So I'm going to go with Joe Burrow.
I went with the easy pick, and that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, he's set up to just get it. I mean, the way you went with Mahomes, it was just the answer that was just – it's logical. It's obvious. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is set up to win this award, but I do like Burrow. If I was going second, I would probably take Burrow. As far as NFC side of the ball, NFC Rookie of the Year on offense, who you got?
DeAndre Swift.
I like that pick.
I think he's going to – I honestly think – the beginning of the year, things might work slowly just based off of what we see with Matt Patricia. But I do think DeAndre Swift gets involved, and I think in the passing game and the running game, I think he's going to make a statement. I mean, I believe they're going to eventually, which is going to be great for the Lions, be able to kind of like split carries to an extent and run the hot hand. And that's what you love to do. And hopefully that happens. This might be a homer pick, but I'll take DeAndre Swift.
No, that's absolutely a logical pick because as of right now, when I looked at the betting odds, when I was looking before the show, he is the number one choice as far as betting odds. And it makes sense because I think the first few weeks, like you said, it's not going to be his show, but he's clearly the more dynamic player out of him and Kerryon Johnson. I mean, Kerryon's still rocking the knee braces. We know he had 1 billion carries in college. We know he struggled with the knee issues. Kerryon's a dude who can be there, but DeAndre Swift's more of a dynamic player. Now, I went with a running back, and I went with Cam Akers. I'm really high on Cam Akers. The Rams took him in the second round. I think first few weeks, he also isn't going to be the main guy. I think Malcolm Brown is going to probably get the carries. He's the least talented of the backfield, but he's also the most consistent. So Malcolm Brown will start off, but I'm saying by week 3, I think Cam Akers is going to take off. I don't think we fully got to see what he was at Florida State because Florida State has just become such a mess recently. Now we'll move on to the defensive side. AFC Rookie of the Year.
Florida State is a mess.
Yes, they are. And it's sad because it was one of the most – I mean,
my boy Francois, man. My boy Francois let the whole the whole team down.
I had DeAndre Francois as a top quarterback at one point. Like, I love the kid. I thought he was really good. I mean, I think we talked about it multiple times that DeAndre Francois could be really good.
He sucks.
He was awful. Absolutely terrible. Now, let's stick to the defense side of the ball here. AFC Rookie of the Year on defense. Who do you like?
Oh, man. Patrick Queen is what happened. I like Patrick Queen. I think he was a steal. I think Baltimore had a wonderful draft. I think Patrick Queen was a steal. That would be my pick. What say you?
I'm 100% with you there. And NFC Rookie of the Year on defense. It's Chase Young. Pretty sure both of us went that way. And, hey, there's your offseason awards. MVP, I took Wentz. You took Mahomes.
What are we doing Coach of the Year? Coach of the Year.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. We got Coach of the Year. Who you got as Coach of the Year?
Chucky. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I went with the homer pick. I went with Kevin Stefanski.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Because I think he can do a good job. I don't know. I was going over it. I'm like, someone who we don't usually look at, and that's the Browns getting any awards. And I figured, why not do one thing nice for the Browns this offseason and say Kevin Stefanski can be a pretty good coach.
Are we going to do a Super Bowl pick?
Yeah, let's do our Super Bowl picks now.
What do you want? What are you going with? What do you get? The floor is yours.
I got the Chiefs winning again. I got Chiefs-Eagles.
Wow.
And I got the Chiefs winning it. Who you got?
Chiefs Saints.
Chiefs Saints. I like that. Who's winning?
I'm rolling with the Saints, man.
Saints, baby. I like that.
I'm high on the Saints. I was high on the Saints last year. The Saints do seem to F shit up come playoff time. But we're going with the Saints. Who that?
Don't the refs usually screw it up for them? from what I've heard from those down in Louisiana. Yeah, so we got our picks here.
For those people, dude. I was scared of those people. I was trying to throw them a bone by picking on you. Now you're trying to piss them off.
Listen, I doubt any Cajun speakers are watching our show. But if we do have a Cajun audience, hit us up, man. Just say you want to join the show because I love the Cajun accent. I can't understand y'all, but I absolutely love it. And no, I'm not trying to make anyone mad this week. I already got enough hate emails from you guys last week. Yeah. So, I mean, an American Patriot, hi, if you're watching again this week. You were my favorite of all the hate emails. But, hey, shit happens. Whatever.
Yep.
So there we go. There are our off-season awards. We got the show actually moving pretty quick tonight, which is weird for us. I'm just waiting for us to go off topic, which is what I thought was about to happen with the Florida State thing. But we got back on track. Let's get back into our NFC West preview. But before we do that, we're going to do our top 5 defenders in the NFC. And I almost totally blew this one, but thankfully I checked Drew right before the show, and he made sure that I wasn't a complete moron on our live stream here. So, who do you have as your top 5 defenders in the NFC?
So for me, at number 5, I have Jamal Adams. Which, if for the hardcore viewers will remember, when we did my top AFC defenders, Jamal Adams was also aboard that list until the trade out there to Seattle. I'm going to at number 4 pick Cam Jordan, monster, beast, love it. Number 3 for me is Khalil Mack. Number 2. And again, we're talking at the end of 2020, who we think is going to be the best. I'm going with Nick Bosa on this list at number 2. And then number 1 is Aaron Donald. Questionably, probably not even questionably, probably overall the best player in the entire league. And that's just the way it is. So Aaron Donald, Nick Bosa, who else is it? Khalil Mack, Cam Jordan, Jamal Adams. Where you at?
Jamal Adams, yeah, he made my top 5 for the AFC, and we talked about it. That's if he ends up in the AFC, and he was obviously traded not long after. For me, number 5, Nick Bosa. I think the kid's just going to keep getting better. At number 4, I have Cam Jordan. Number 3, Khalil Mack. Number 2, Bobby Wagner. And number 1, thankfully, because I talked to you and I had a complete brain fart before I made this list, Aaron Donald. The best defensive player on the planet. The guy's just a stud. I mean, shit. How did I almost miss him? I would have kicked my own ass had I forgotten that one. Just on our live stream, I whooped my own ass because that's what would have happened.
You didn't forget him, though. You're in good shape.
We are good. And let's get into our NFC West preview. And we will start with a team 5-10-1 last year. They had a new quarterback. They had a new head coach. I was not high on this team coming into the year. But I was wrong. Kyler Murray played pretty damn well. Cliffy did a hell of a job coaching for this team. And they found a body who could run the football suddenly, pulled him out of the pile of Miami in Kenyon Drake. I mean, this team 5-10-1 last year. Who'd they tie with again?
I don't know.
They added Nuke Hopkins. They added Devin Kennard. They added Devondre Campbell. They lost David Johnson, the corpse of David Johnson. For this team, does Kyler progress? Is Drake for real? I mean, you got Christian Kirk, who's coming back off injury. Fitz, Nuke. That's a nice wide receiver tandem. Max Williams is your tight end. This is a guy who was a second-round pick for the Ravens, a guy who was really good at Minnesota. Does he finally perform up to his draft value? I mean, is this guy finally going to do anything? Because behind him, you got Dan Arnold, who's just okay, and a bunch of other guys. The O-line still below average. Still need to work on getting better blockers for Kyler. And the defense, led by Patrick Peterson, Chandler Jones, and Budda Baker, they're solid. But this team isn't anything special, but I think they're building towards something.
Mm-hmm.
They're over/under 7.5. Where do you see this team by the end of 2020?
You hit it on the head. They're building something. They're not there yet. Mm-hmm. They drafted Josh Jones out of Houston, tackle position, not 100% going to be ready right away.
I think that's a steal where they got him, though.
I do as well. They got Isaiah Simmons, who some could question is the most athletic, most complete player in the entire draft. Again, one of the players that we even talked about this, one of the players that we think is going to be a really, really nice player, but with this kind of offseason kind of put at a little bit of a disadvantage based off of him needing to learn a playbook kind of at two different levels of the defense. But no, I think that with Nuke Hopkins coming in, I mean, David Johnson, Bill O'Brien's going to just get the best out of him, probably a 2,000 to 3,000 yard season on him, you'd expect. But no, I mean, I honestly, I like this team. I like what they're doing. The defense has questions. Buda Baker got just paid, one of the best DBs in the league.
So undervalued.
Chandler Jones, they have some pieces defensively. I still think this team's 1 year away from being a playoff team. This team pegged at 8-8.
8-8. So you are going to take the over. Yeah, the problem with this team is not what they have or what they're building. It's the division they play in. This is a really, really good division. All of these teams are very, very talented. That's why I'm actually going to take the under, but I still have them at 7-9. I think they do get better than last year, but I'm going to keep them at 7-9. And this is going to be a fun team to watch. Kyler's a hell of a player. What do they do with Isaiah Simmons? I mean, a few weeks into the season, once he figures out game speed, it could be scary because you can move him around all over the place. It's a chess piece.
And Nuke has to learn a whole new offense. You know what I mean? This team's going to take, I think, some time. I think their record might not reflect the team they're going to be come week 16 early on.
100% agree with that. That is an excellent point. And we'll move on now to the team that finished third in the division last season, and that was the LA Rams. They finished 9-7. They added A'Shawn Robinson. They added Michael Brockers. They added Cam Akers in the draft, Van Jefferson in the draft. But they lost Corey Littleton. They lost Nicky Roby Coleman. They lost Eric Weddle. They lost Todd Gurley. I mean, there are a lot of questions around this team. Where are they going? What's that offense doing? They're going from a 3 wide receiver set most times to they started rocking 2 tight ends towards the end of the season. And the main reason for that is because Jared Goff could not keep upright. The offensive line is still crap. It's garbage. It is a hot garbage offensive line. So Goff, will he improve? Is he ever going to live up to his contract? I mean, Cam Akers, I think he's the stud they need, but in time. I like the wide receiver core of, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. I like Josh Reynolds as your third guy. I really like Van Jefferson. I think he's going to be a really good fixture in this offense come week 6, 7. But this offensive line, they have to develop guys because these tight ends are not even that good. They signed Tyler Higbee to a 4-year extension. I don't even think he's worth that money. I mean, Bryson Hopkins, you drafted him, solid player, but he's a big wide receiver. He's not going to block anyone. And on defense, you got Aaron Donald, obviously, who's a stud. But Samu Bukum is a okay run defender. Are Brockers and Robinson going to be able to hold down the middle against some of these teams that they're playing in this division with the speed they have at running back? I mean, this is a team that last year was 9-7. Their over-under is 8 this year. Are they going to be as good as last year, or do they fall back again for a second year?
I hate this team. I don't know about you. I hate it. I mean, listen, Jared Goff, it's hard for me to so the team, the offense in general, you go from having this deep threat in Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp, and things were great. This team is your common case of paying too much to too many guys and then ending up in the situation they're in right now. So why did they not have a first-round pick? Well, because they blew their first-round pick. The offense, I think, will be okay. The defense has holes. And again, the reason the defense has holes is because of the money they've been paying. The defense will – Aaron Donald's the best player in football. But you think of the offense, you lose Todd Gurley. Brandon Cooks, although he's not always healthy, Brandon Cooks is a home run hitter. He stretches the opposite of Cooper Kupp, which is a route-running machine.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to hurt the offense a little bit. Again, the offensive line is Jared Goff losing all his confidence at this point because he's not even being able to progress through 2 guys when it comes to his reads because guys are in his face. you worry about that. I mean, you really do, because Jared Goff at times looks like when he's in rhythm and has time, he looks very good. Other times he looks terrible. And I'm talking terrible where, like, you have 16 yards heading into the third quarter, terrible. Mm-hmm. Like, so I think with Sean McVay, I think he'll try to figure it out. I just don't think the team's very good, in my opinion. This team wins 6 games. It's a 6-10 ball club. I don't like it. I think Sean McVay is a good coach. I just don't know if they have the pieces. I don't know if Jared Goff is going to be able to be good enough with that offense. I'm not high on them at all. I'll go 6-10. Give me the under.
This is a very Atlanta Falcons type roster where they are very good up top. But is that depth there? I mean, they got Jalen Ramsey. They've got Aaron Donald. They got all these names you know of. It's a John Dorsey type team where you got all the names. And I have enough faith in Sean McVay to figure out the offense. The reason I thought Malcolm Brown would start, by the way, not only is he the most consistent, but he's also a good pass blocker as opposed to a rookie who's going to be in there. I think a lot of times you're going to see them, rather than the 3 wide receivers, I think they're going to stick with that 2 tight ends. I think they're really going to try to keep 7 men on the offensive line at all times to not only allow Goff to stay upright, but to get in that rhythm you talked about. It's going to be a lot of short passes where Cooper Kupp's probably going to get 130 balls this year. I mean, he's just going to get open. It's going to be 4 yards. He'll break open a few. Robert Woods will do some. They'll figure it out, and that's when I think if Cam Akers can be the player I expect him to be, I think that's what will help open up this offense, to open up the play action. And I'm actually going to take the over at 9-7, but I can absolutely see where you're coming from with the fact that this roster does have a shit ton of holes because they have traded away a lot of picks and they haven't filled them properly at this point. So this is a team that's anywhere from 6 to 10 wins. I mean, it's a well-coached team. But that defense, I'm not 100% on it. And can they keep Goff upright? I mean, it's going to be fun to see them get beat up a lot because it's going to happen because they got teams like the second-place team in this division, these Seattle Seahawks, who finished 11-5 last year, which could have been better, but they got beat up by the number 1 team a couple times. They added Greg Olsen, Bruce Irvin, Dunbar, Jamal Adams. I mean, they got Russ. That's where this team starts.
Josh Gordon's back. Gordon's back.
Flash, baby. What was the quote you said earlier? The cats are jealous. Cats are jealous of him, of the NFL lives he has. Yeah. Whoever had that quote, absolutely a genius. And I have to pull up their win. Their over under here. I don't know why I didn't write this one down. I'll look for it in a second.
No, I'm gonna just you look for that. I'm just gonna run with Seattle. Listen, man, here's the deal. I love Seattle. You know I love Seattle. You know I love Russell Wilson. Defense is going to be really, really good. We just mentioned they added a top 5 defensive player, in my opinion, in the entire division and the entire conference. I see them being able to run the ball well. I love this team. This is my favorite team of the conference this year. I pegged them at the same number they went with last year, 11-5, but I think they do win the division. Again, this is a great division. You mentioned it. This division is going to be tough. I have Seattle at 11-5. I think Russell Wilson, what do you say, Mr. Impossible, Mr. Whatever the hell it is, Unlimited?
Mr. Do anything.
Yeah, Mr. Unlimited. Mr. Unlimited is going to have a fantastic year. I just love the way Seattle does things. You know they're going to play good defense. Bobby Wagner's a beast. You know they're going to try to run the ball. And just the efficiency of what Russell Wilson does offensively, and having Josh Gordon back for 3 games until he gets suspended. It's going to be great, man. They're going to be teeing off on teams. I will take them at 11-5 in first place in the division.
I like that. I also have the over, but I've got them at 10 wins. And it's nice with all this stuff going on and all this unknown going on with the pandemic and all this other shit going on. It's nice to know that some things stay the same. And it's nice to know that to start September, we hear that Josh Gordon has been reinstated.
Yep.
Keeping shit real. Now, this team, you look up at the team, the run game is good. The offensive line is still a question mark, but Russ has always made up for that. The run game, I like the addition of Carlos Hyde as a backup to Chris Carson. Chris Carson stays healthy. He's a pretty damn good running back at this point. Wide receiver, Tyler Lockett's their number 1. He's really good when he's on. DK Metcalf, stud
DK.
for the second half of last year. David Moore and Philip Dorsett are going to battle for that third spot, and then there's Flash, who will be there at some point. If that guy ever lives up to his talent, he's the best wide receiver on the planet, and I think that's a long time. That was 7 years ago we're looking at when he was to that point. He's never going to live up to it, but if he ever did, look out.
You and I have known each other a while now. It's always been, man, if Josh Gordon ever lives up to his talent,
it might happen.
Oh, shit. No, at this point, it's not going to happen. That's just never going to happen, dude. We just got to accept it.
Exactly. And that O-line, it's Dwayne Brown, and then, I mean, there's guys there. That's basically what it is. And the D, it's got some stars on it. I mean, you got Bobby Wagner, who you talk about. He's a stud. I mean, one of the best linebackers in the league. KJ Wright, solid every year. Jamal Adams, stud. And then it's basically a young bunch. I mean, they got 2019 first-round pick LJ Collier. If he develops, you're okay. The guys they took this year, if they develop, they can be really good. It's a tough division for them. But Russ is the guy who keeps it together. And if Russ can continue his trajectory of going up, I think this is a team that wins 10 games in this tough division. And I do have them at first place winning 10 games this year, which means that the next team, the 49ers, I actually have them in second place, also winning 10 games. They were 13-3 last year. They added Trent Williams. That's their big add. That's a big add because that guy's a stud. And he replaces Joe Staley, who retired and they lost. They lost DeForest Buckner. They lost Emmanuel Sanders. But for this team, we know they can run the football. We know that offensive line is good. We know how good the defense is. We know that probably defensively they're going to be in the top 5. My 2 questions for this team. Does Garoppolo become more than a game manager? And does Richard Sherman play as well as he did last year, or does he come back to earth? What do you think?
Well, first of all, they have no wide receivers right now. Their entire team is banged up. You mentioned Emmanuel Sanders leaving. This team, to me, it comes back to earth a little bit. Yeah, they were really, really good last year. Richard Sherman had a fantastic year. Yes, he comes back to earth, to answer your question. For me, it's tough because you love what Kyle Shanahan does offensively. You love what he can do. You love the packages he brings in. You love the fact that he gives guys the ability to be in space. But the fact is who is healthy for this team and early on in the season, and who is going to step up and take on the role of the guy offensively, with outside of George Kittle. To me, I think they take a step back. I have them at 9-7. I still think it's a good team, but I have them at 9-7. And it's tough because I don't think they've done anything to upgrade their weapons outside of, drafting Brandon Ayuk. But to me, that's where I have them at. You got to be somewhere around where I'm at if you have them, in second place here.
Yeah, I have them at 10-6. Their over-under is 10.5. I have them under that, obviously, at the 10. I mean, at running back, they're going to run the football. They're going to do it well. That's what's going to keep them in games, is that defense in the running game. You got Mostert, you got Coleman, and you might have Jerick McKinnon finally back after 6 years of missing. He's the Josh Gordon of running backs.
For 20 minutes.
Basically from injuries. I mean, yeah, wide receiver, it's Ayuk, and then that's what they added, and he'll play. He's going to be good. He's fast. The guy can be electric, but he can be. It's not going to help them right away. Kendrick Bourne's going to have to improve. He was okay at times last year. Deebo Samuel dealing with injuries. Once he's healthy, he's okay. But that Emmanuel Sanders, the loss of Emmanuel Sanders will be huge because he was the veteran in that group. He was the guy you knew would get open. The other team knew he would get open, and he took pressure off the other kids. And Kittle, yeah, he's going to get his catches. I think his numbers come back to earth. Kittle's going to get a lot of catches, but I think it's the yards per catch are going to go down, and he's not going to be as dynamic, but he's still a hell of a run blocker. They're still going to run the football, and that defense is still going to be good, and that's why I have them at the 10 wins. Finishing in second place, a wild card berth for this team. And that is our preview. Anything else you want to talk about the Niners and the NFC West before we move on?
No, I think Deebo Samuel, man, I love Deebo Samuel, but without having options that are threats on the outside. Deebo Samuel and kind of like the niche, him getting, screens, yards in space on reverses. It's kind of, neutralized a little bit, in my opinion.
Absolutely. He's a guy who needs that. He's exactly – you saw what he did in the Super Bowl. There were sweeps. There were screens. He's a guy who can do a lot, but he's going to need help.
Exactly.
And that is our preview. We have previewed every division, so you can look back over our last 8 shows, minus last week. So our 7 shows minus last week, where we previewed every single division in the NFL here on the Full Coverage Football Show. And now, without further ado, and with my headphone falling out of my ear, it is the return of the best segment on the show where Drew does a very nice thing for you and helps you get that money, baby. Make it rain. It is the return of Ward's Wagers, 43-18-2 last season against the spread. That is unbelievable. The man knows what he's talking about. And now I am just going to exit myself out of the screen here. And Drew, welcome back to Ward's Wagers, brother.
Ward's Wagers is back, ladies and gentlemen. As he said, 43-18-2. That's pretty incredible. Here we are again. We got two picks here from the game coming up next Thursday. Hey, this game's 9.5 points. I feel like that's a lot of points. The Chiefs minus 9.5 playing against the Texans. I'm going to take the Texans plus 9.5 against the Chiefs. Also in this game, we had the over/under at 54 points. I'm saying it's the under. Hey, listen, we've had an off season that's kind of nothing we've ever seen. So this has been an off season where there hasn't been enough reps, enough time, enough preseason. I expect a sloppy football game come next Thursday. We will take the under with the 54 points. The one future bet that I do want to end Ward's Wagers with is Carson Wentz, MVP 20-1. I like Carson Wentz, MVP 21. Jeremy hit on it earlier. I respect
that message.
Yep, I respect that. So I like that at 20-1. So again, just to sum up, the first 2 bets, the first future of Ward's Wagers, we're going to continue to add into that win column. We're going to take Houston plus 9.5. And we're also going to take the under of 54 points next Thursday. We're going to see y'all next Thursday to watch. We'll be watching the game live. It's going to be wonderful.
Yes, sir. We will be back next Thursday with the live stream at 9 p.m. We'll be hitting right around the end of the first quarter. And it will be football, baby. Football back. And I just can't wait, man. I just can't wait for it. Now, this is the quickest show we've ever done. We stayed on track for once. We did very well with it. And anything else you want to talk about before we go? All right, we got a question here. FedEx Cup winner. We always hit the golf questions when we get them.
DJ, he's starting at 10 under. DJ's starting at 10 under. He's been dynamic. I will take DJ. But a dark horse winner for the week would be Kevin Kisner. So, yeah.
Never heard of him, but I trust you.
He's an Aiken, South Carolina kid. It's kind of like a hometown for him.
Nice.
Dude just cashes checks. But yeah, I could see him winning. But yeah, give me DJ because again, DJ starts so like the way I don't know if you know how this works, but like depending on where you are in the standings, like so DJ starts tomorrow 10 under par. Everybody else is not at 10 under par. So he's essentially, DJ he has an upper hand. But again, we'll see how it works. DJ's been on its air lately. No, I do like John Rahm. However, I'm wrong with DJ.
Can't go wrong with DJ. He's been killing it. So, to recap the show tonight, we did the NFC South. We did the NFC West. We did our top 5 wide receivers. We did our top defenders. We gave you our MVP candidates, our AFC and NFC Rookies of the Year on offensive defense, our Coach of the Year, our Super Bowl picks, and we ended the show with Ward's Wagers, which had Drew taking Houston plus 9.5 and taking the under of 54. 43, 18, and 2 against the spread last year. If you don't know what that means, look up some of these numbers for these so-called experts, and you know that this guy probably whooped all their asses.
We were good. Yeah, we were damn good.
There were 4 weeks in a row. I think you went either 4-0 or 3-1.
Yep.
So
we were in good shape.
So let's hope we continue that this year because it's going to be fun. We get football next week. You get a full slate of awards wagers next week. You get live game coverage, which means at times you are going to have no idea where our heads are going to be because we're going to start talking about random plays.
I'm hammering the shit out of that Lions spread. I'm hammering the shit out of it. You guys put your bets in now.
What was the Lions over under this year? I forgot. We'll go back and look at that. I am going to post on our Facebook page. That's fb.me/FCFSpod. I will post all of our over-unders there just to see how well we do. We're going to get out of here in a little bit here. So that means for the first time, we are under an hour, which means you can find the show on Instagram TV. We will make our debut there, and you can check that out at Somerville CLE. It will be the easiest way to find it on Instagram TV, which means we'll be on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook for the live show. You can also catch it on Twitter, which we will retweet at Somerville CLE at Detroit Dave 7. You can also find the audio versions on Spotify, Apple Pods, Google Pods, iHeartRadio, Anchor.fm. We are everywhere. And if you feel like being kind and you want to support the show, please do so by checking out some of our new merchandise. We got some good t-shirts there. We got the Drew and the Fat Guy t-shirt, which is our current #1 seller in both men's and women's. We do have some hoodies coming up here. We got 2 Detroit football tees, a couple Browns football tees, and an Ohio football tee, as well as just the basic full coverage football show tees. We'll have some new merchandise up there soon because we're going to have our new logo, hopefully by next week. So with that being said, you got anything else on your mind tonight before we get out of here?
No, man. Hey, happy Labor Day weekend to everybody. I'm about to go destroy my draft and win that shit. And it'll be good. So everybody have a safe weekend. Thanks for listening. And that's all I got, brother, man.
Appreciate it. You have yourself a great weekend. Good luck in your draft.
Thank you.
For those of you who are drafting this weekend, be sure to check out episode 39 of the Full Coverage Football Show, where you can get all the fantasy information your little heart desires. With that being said, check out our sponsors, Manhattan Deli Menor, 440-974-0055, Concealed Carry Firearms Training, 440-391-4118, and Kitty Cove Daycare at Kitty Cove OH on Facebook. Nailed it. And be sure to check out our last 2 episodes where we had some new FCFS FOTSs. And with that being said, as always, remember, if you live the life you love, you'll love the life you live. Good night, kids.